Hey everybody, this is the Esoteric Cross. I make videos about how to gain your personal power while learning ancient secrets, and if that sounds like something that you're into, please hit the like button and subscribe and gain insight from this perspective in the cosmos. In this video, we dive into the profound world of tarot and explore the significance of water within the major arcana. From the stillness of the high priestess to the flowing energy of the empress and to the transformative power of the star, water serves as a powerful symbol, guiding us through the stages of emotional, creative, and spiritual development. As we uncover the hidden meanings behind the water imagery in these cards, we gain a deeper understanding of the messages it seeks to convey. So grab your tarot deck and join us on this journey of self-discovery. The symbol of water in the major arcana of the tarot has many significances. It can represent emotional depth, intuition, and the unconscious mind. We can remember too that water follows the path of least resistance. Water is an element that is centered around flexibility, acceptance, going with the flow. Within tarot, water is often associated with feelings, emotions, and psychic abilities. It does have some other meanings too, like we could view water as a representation for the uninitiated. Initiation is what happens in an awakening, and it is seen as a die-off of the old self, the old life, and taking a step into the next phase of consciousness. Anytime that we see water as a symbol, we can use this lens to get a deeper understanding of it. Another important aspect of water is its ability to nurture life. If we have earth, the grounding properties, and we plant seeds into the ground, then we will need water. This makes it a symbol of something that nurtures growth and expansion. We also tend to use water for washing things away. It has a cleansing aspect to it. In relation to becoming initiated, water can be seen as a symbol of the ability to wash away impurities and start fresh. This element is associated with the suit of the cups in tarot, and these cards can often be interpreted as having to do with relationships and emotions. I always like to say that it can have to do with relationships, but because this is a more internal element, it has more to do with how the relationships make us feel. The big thing with the suit of the cups is emotional fulfillment, and this is the ultimate goal. It's less about the external material surroundings that we acquire, and more about what they represent and how they make us feel. When we observe water in the major arcana, we can see something else to this emotional fulfillment and maturity. As the major arcana is representing the journey of the soul, the big moments along the path of initiation, the water here is more representative of the spiritual waters of life, and also the emotion tied to spiritual development. This water can be creative and holds manifesting properties to grow things in the material, but it is much more related to the root of the creative powers. The water flowing from the high priestess to the empress and then to the emperor represents a flow of spiritual and creative energy that leads to manifestation in the material world. This water is associated with the feminine principle in the process of conception and gestation, which culminates in childbirth, the empress, and leadership, the emperor. We then see this water show up again. You may see it in more cards depending on the tarot deck that you have, but in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, we see it show up again in the chariot. We also see this water in death. The water in the Temperance card and the Star card symbolizes the potential for healing, transformation, and spiritual growth. Since we can take this approach of water representing nurturing the growth of life, in these cards this powerful symbol can represent a spiritual nourishment and guidance, and the potential for positive change and spiritual awakening. Especially with guidance, we can think about following a river, even following this river to its source. Let's get started by looking at some of the important cards where water shows up in the major arcana. Also, if you love learning about tarot and are interested in how these cards relate to Qabalah and the Tree of Life, check out my course on this subject. The relationship between Qabalah and tarot is something that's rarely talked about but can really expand your knowledge on tarot by a lot. The link is in the description below. Now, the first place that we can see water show up is in the High Priestess card in the major arcana. Labeled by the number 2, this card is represented by the moon, and we have the High Priestess seated between two pillars. She is the middle pillar of the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, and she even has this Kabbalistic Tree of Life behind her on the veil. The veil represents the concealment of things that are hidden. This can be the knowledge of the occult, secrets, mysteries. But one of the biggest things which all of this really revolves around is the unconscious mind. She is like the guard at the gateway into the unconscious. Take a close look at what is behind this veil. It's water. Still water. This is typically seen as the card of passivity and stillness. This is showing that we need to become still and observant of the self in the space around us. These are skills that are taught by meditation. But doing this, we start to peek behind that veil a little bit. From the unconscious, things will make their way into the surface so that we can deal with them or use them. This is the power of creativity, using what is hidden. These things that make their way to the surface by practicing stillness are then used as sustenance for life. We can see this water then flow into the Empress card. Both cards were centered around the feminine principle, but the High Priestess was much more cold and mysterious, and now with the Empress we have more warmth and growth. The Empress is all about fertility and abundance. There is much less water here in the card, as the water in the High Priestess was large, vast, but mostly hidden. The water in the Empress is flowing, moving, and is associated with all of the expansion taking place. We could see this as a message of the intuition guiding us forward. Creativity and abundance are lying in the place where we are able to stay present and receptive, letting things flow. This here is showing the generative principle, but from here we start to see some things change. Let's take a look at the Emperor. He represents authority, leadership, and success, ruling over the kingdom. He is like a warrior. The mountains in the background represent the heights that can be reached by following the generative principle. There is structure, stability, and a strong foundation built. There's an essence of control, force, and discipline. We still have the river flowing in the background from the Empress, but here the river is much more faint. The Emperor is here to bring order and structure to the creation, organizing, directing the flow of the creative energies. But it's at this point where the flow begins to minimize and become weak. Too much control, too much structure will weaken the force of the creativity and intuition. Bringing the Emperor and the Empress into a place of balance is the key, where the control, discipline, and structure is able to create a place for the energy to flow, but also having a strong connection to source, receptivity, and presence will keep the flow very strong. The balance of the two can be seen more clearly in the chariot. In this card, there's a lot of symbolism to signify the balance of masculine and feminine forces, the sphinxes, the coming together of the rod and the cup on the front of the chariot, the land and the water, and even the figure is kind of androgynous. We have the city in the background representing the kingdom, which are showing the aspects of the Emperor. The water in this card is symbolizing the unconscious mind as in the High Priestess. It's also the flow creativity of the Empress. We have the discipline, control, and structure of the Emperor in this card, but the figure is stuck in cement. He's cemented into the chariot and fused with the chariot. The meaning of the card is victory and using the will to move that chariot forward, but the wheels of the chariot are in the water, showing that the force, will, passion needed to move forward are likely rooted in our emotional charge, intuition, and even within our ability to flow with the changes of life. We see water come up again in the Death card. Again, this is centered around emotion and intuition, but here we can see the more transformative aspects of water, surrender and sacrifice. The card before Death was the Hanged Man, which actually is the card that is associated with water, even though we don't see water in the card in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's through the act of letting go, surrender, and sacrifice we go into the transition willingly. The Death card is the transition, destruction, and yet the creation of this next aspect of consciousness. We have to let the past go in order to embrace the next phase. This is an important thing that the element of water will teach us by going with the flow. What happens after death? What happens to consciousness after stripping everything away? The ego, the personality, the false self. In Temperance, there is this ability to work with those creative waters again. We are holding on to two cups and balancing between severity and mercy. One foot is in the water and one foot is on the land, describing the balance between the subconscious and the conscious minds. The totality of the unconscious is vast, and we will never experience all of it with the conscious mind. We are able to draw a fraction from it to continue the generation process and ordering things within our lives. This is about freedom, liberation, and understanding that things change and we are on an adventure. We see water come up again in the star. This has a similar message as Temperance in the sense that it comes after a destruction. The tower has come crashing down, and now what? What is left? Well, the star is an incredibly positive card. It represents hope. It's almost like there's nothing left to lose, but not in a negative way. Here, we are able to really take off the masks, the personas, and just be free in our creativity without the worry of what others think. There is expression, energy, freedom, and a new intelligence in this space. The water is showing the flow of life, but more importantly, the flow of life is kind of in your hands at this point. You are using your connection into the unconscious to actually water your fruitfulness of your physical reality and manifestations. And you are using it to pour energy right back into the unconscious. The pouring of the water is also suggesting the ability to direct the flow of emotions, to direct the flow of the creative energy, which is what we've been learning to do since the weaker flow in the Emperor. Water is shown again in the Moon card to symbolize intuition, and using this intuition to guide us forward to the light, to guide us forward to the truth. It really is about making the unconscious conscious. We need to bring things up to the surface in order to actually deal with them. We do this by being still, by taking our attention directly into our emotions. We examine our dreams and let this intuition guide us into a higher state of consciousness. Judgment is the last place that we see water, and we can see the symbolism of it representing the uninitiated. What's happening here is that the people are waking up from their sleep. They are being reborn, rising from the dead. This is a dying off of the old self, and they are finding renewal and rising up into this new self. The water is the symbol for change, elevation, as it is rising up the people above the surface to embrace the truth in a new state of consciousness. You can take these ideas even further by observing water in the minor arcana, but this will show them in a more material way. The minor arcana has more to do with the minor details of the path of initiation within the day-to-day life. The flow of water in these cards suggests the journey of personal and spiritual evolution. As you can see, the symbol of water in tarot and in general is complex and multi-layered. It has a range of meanings from being about spirituality, life force energy, emotions, and unconscious energy. This water plays a vital role in guiding us through the journey of initiation. By paying attention to the imagery associated with water in the major arcana, we gain a deeper understanding of the messages these cards are trying to convey. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other related videos on this channel, and I also have courses listed in the description below on ceremonial magic and also studying tarot with that Kabbalistic tree of life. If you want to work one-on-one with me, I offer coaching as well. There are links in the description to this as well as to where you can book a tarot reading with me. I'll also have the link to my Patreon if you're interested in some live streams. And I hope there was something new that you were able to take away from this video. If so, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for more content. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.